Okay, welcome to the Clear to Close ASAP podcast. I am with my buddy Andy Lane, co-owner of Lane Realty Group. He's been here in the Phoenix area. He's been doing real estate for almost 10 years. Is that right, Andy?
10 years.
Okay. And you started in 13, so you're coming up on your 2013, so you're coming up on your 10-year anniversary. And Andy, you didn't just do real estate your whole life. What were you doing earlier on in your life?
Well, I spent 7.5 years in professional baseball. I actually also own a lighting company, and took over basically real estate duties once I got out of baseball with Chicago Cubs.
Nice. That's awesome. That is awesome. And you also have a small company on the side doing holiday lighting, so that's cool. But your main gig is real estate right now,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Okay, great. And so what we're talking about now lately is the recent spike that we've had in interest rates. If we look at slide 1 here, now this is just a 10-year history of interest rates. It starts around 2013, which is an apt time for the chart to start because this is right when you started in real estate. So this would be like this is almost like the history
of. Planned it.
It's almost like I planned it, but I really didn't. This is the history of Andy as a realtor and the interest rates that he was subjected to. And now look at this. Look what's happened here in the past, really like 6 to 8 months. This crazy spike that we've seen. And it's really seeming to, not to try to be negative, but maybe for lack of a better term, freaking people out a little bit. Would you say that's a fair thing to say?
In my 10 years, really, the interest rate has never been a huge buying or selling point, really. It's never been a topic. I mean, it's kind of been similar. Mm-hmm. You know, obviously the last 3-4 years it's changed. It's gone up and down. Mm-hmm. So usually, I mean, from 2013 to 2018, really, nobody didn't talk about interest rates like they do now. It's like a topic that you talk about a lot more, and that's just recent. I mean, when it was really good, right around COVID, and then till now, you know, it's definitely now a topic.
So I always say that whenever something is on the front page every single day, that's where the public tends to focus. But this is the environment that we're currently in, is that people are, I know I said freaked out earlier, but maybe another word is worried.
Yeah.
And so I have personally spoken to people who, they say, we want to buy a home, but we're going to wait. And I say, why? And they say, we're waiting for rates to come down. Could rates come down? Of course they could. What else could rates do?
They can keep going.
Rates
just
can
like
keep
home
going
prices can go up or nobody can predict the future. If you could, you'd probably be a billionaire.
Exactly. Right.
Maybe a trillionaire.
Maybe a trillionaire. Now what I've noticed in my tenure in the mortgage business is that rates and home prices tend to have an inverse relationship, meaning that as rates go up, home prices go down. And the main reason for that I found is that it's all about your monthly payment. So home prices here in the Phoenix area were going crazy high as rates were going low because people were saying, well, I'm paying a lot for this house, but look how low rates are. I can still afford the monthly payment. Now the wind stopped blowing that direction and did a total 180. And now I personally think, and you can give me your take on this, I think that people are kind of in a state of shock and they're kind of like, I don't know what to do. And when people don't know what to do, they typically do nothing.
Yeah.
What's your would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I do. When you see the rates jump, I mean, or lower, that you do see a buyer effect. Mm-hmm. Whether that's, you know, good or bad, that people definitely want to see a current, like more of a status quo. And then when things go up and down a lot, they either get aggressive or they hold back. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I would say it's never a good idea to wait. If you're ready to buy, you know, you buy because you're paying somebody else's mortgage or you're going to pay your mortgage. Mm-hmm. I mean, those are your two options. Mm-hmm. If you're trying to wait something out, you can wait your whole life.
Yeah. So if you're currently renting, then you're paying. Yeah. And you know, some things that I tell people are that, look, since interest rates are so high, we've gone from a seller's market to a buyer's market, which basically means that now you as a buyer, all of a sudden you have a voice when you didn't have it before. You can negotiate price. You can tell them to fix things. You can tell them to make all kinds of changes.
Which was normal. I mean, that's always, well, I mean, any realtor will tell you that's been in the business for 5+ years, you want a negotiation that's healthy. You want things that are broken to be fixed. At one point, a buyer had to give away everything, their firstborn son, to get an offer accepted.
Right.
I mean, it was crazy. When people were waiving inspections, waiving going 50,000 over, 100,000 over, waiving everything,
paying over appraisal.
And as a buyer, that's not a great way to be a first-time buyer. I'm going to walk into a house that's broken, I paid way too much for, and now what we're going to see is it's going to come back to the drawing board, and we're going to say, hey, you can get some of your stuff. Your inspections will now be meaningful, and you'll be able to ask for fixes. You don't have to waive everything. That's a positive sign for every buyer. Is that now the buyer can come in lower than asking price and get an offer, because people are dying to have an offer at this point. There's the average housing has to be at least 30 days on the market like it used to be. Maybe 60 days soon. Like it was for the last 10 years. I mean, 30 days was normal. If your house was on the market for 30 days, it was like, oh, don't freak out. Let's lower the price and see what happens. And now you're starting to see people lower the price after a week, and the next week, and it's lowering every week, and you're still not getting showings.
So it's almost like a panic that's setting in
on the seller side.
On the seller side,
which is great for buyers.
It's great for buyers, but like you said earlier, you want equilibrium in the market. It can be an unhealthy market one way or the other way. So it can be an unhealthy seller's market like it was before, where people literally had to write their life story down and give them a, please sell us this house, where now it's almost like you got sellers writing letters to buyers. It's just done a complete 180. So I think both of those sides can be unhealthy one way or the other, where you have one party sort of pushing the other party around a little bit too much. Before it was sellers pushing buyers around too much, and now it could turn into a situation where buyers are pushing sellers around a little bit too much. But do you think there's a valid point to be said where since interest rates are high, that buyers shouldn't necessarily focus on the rate, but they should find out what their payment should be and say, look, okay, I really like your house. You're selling it for $550,000, $650,000, whatever it is, but my payment is going to be $300 too high. So you need to come down on your payment because of where interest rates are, or you need to come down on your price because of where interest rates are, so that my payment can be where it needs to be. Is that a fair thing?
Absolutely. I mean, it really does come down to the monthly payment. How much can you afford? How much can you put down? And then we're starting to see another thing that we're starting to see now that the market shifted, is that the seller concessions are now coming back into play, where you can ask for closing costs, and you can actually buy down your rate, or you can do other things that will help lower your monthly payment. I mean, we're talking about a complete shift in the market, but it's a correction in a way where it needed to be corrected. It was just, I mean, if we kept going up and up and up, something's going to give.
Unsustainable.
Absolutely.
Right. And I think it would be fair to say, and maybe I'm just like trying to pretend like I have a crystal ball here, but if you see what rates have done in the past 6 months, you can almost look at this and say, this has to be unsustainable as well.
Absolutely.
Rates have gone from mid 2s to the low 7s in a very short period of time. Do you think it's possible that rates could go up another 5% in another 6 months?
I mean, who knows?
That would be 12%.
Yeah, and like I said, in the 80s and 90s. Now, do I think that'll happen? No. But once again, we can't predict. But to be a buyer-focused market now, you finally have a chance to negotiate. You have a chance to get under. And and there's always the option, as you know, to refinance. You finally get the house you've always wanted. You don't have to put 30 different offers into a house. You put one. Now we're averaging one offer, and you get that accepted. And that's a big deal for especially these poor people who have been waiting 2 years to finally get a house, and they can finally get their offer. And I'm telling you right now, I haven't seen a full price offer on a house in 6 months.
Wow.
So we're sitting,
crazy.
We're sitting at a completely different market, and it's become completely a buyer's market.
I mean, the wind didn't just shift; it shifted quickly, and it's blowing hard in the other direction.
It is.
And I like the fact that you brought up the 80s. So let's look at slide number 2 here, and you look at now. This puts things in a pretty different context here. You do see this very high spike at the very far right of the chart, which is where we are right now. But look at where rates have been in the past. I mean, look at where they've been.
I hear stories of when I was born, basically, and oh well, this is you should have seen the '80s. Right. I mean, I was alive, but I was young. Right. But
you weren't buying a house back then.
No, but when I heard about that, they're always like, oh, this is low. I always hear that from parents and grandparents. Like, you guys had it easy. You guys have it made. But if you put it in perspective, if you looked at that slide, it's not even. It's like a blink it's like a dust in the wind. Really. Right. I mean, it's nothing. I mean, if you look at the last 20 years, we really have been spoiled. And
for sure.
And if there's anything to be said, is that it's not time to worry or freak out, because if you do look in the past, we're not even close to any of that. Now, you can always wait. Everybody can say, well, I wait and I'll wait. I should have done this my whole life, but I waited. I mean, there's things like that. You can wait your whole life. Interest is going to be higher, but there's always ways to correct that. There's ways to pay it down. You're not stuck, but would you just rather pay a high rent? Rent's as high as it's ever been as well.
What do you say to first-time home buyers who have been sitting on the sidelines and they've literally been saying homes are just too expensive in Maricopa County and the rest of Arizona for that matter? I can't buy a house, so I'm glad home prices are coming down.
And what I would say is to buyers right now is it's time to get aggressive. Really, this is your chance. I mean, people are sitting on the market for days, and now throw your offers in.
You're calling the shots.
Absolutely. Okay. Like I've negotiated 100,000 lower on a couple deals already because buyers buyers are smelling blood. And you know what? And some of those first-time home buyers are going to start seeing those prices lower, and it's just natural, because if demand, supply and demand, if there's no demand, then the supply's going to keep going up. So you're going to like where it used to be one house, and if you didn't put an offer on that house, you weren't going to get it. But you might not get one that's any good for 30 days. Now there's 10 houses, 20 houses that you can pick from and put an offer on. And that's how it always used to be.
Use that to your advantage.
Yeah, so the last 2 years was an anomaly, really. I mean, look at it. It's crazy. Yeah. Our prices doubled. Our rates were historically low. Like, yeah, that was a crazy time, and you just almost got to look at it and be like, well, that was like a crazy little blip. And, now it's kind of correcting itself. And now you can, as a buyer, I encourage those people to start getting real aggressive and start going at things. Start asking for closing costs again. For the last few years, there was no closing costs. There, paid for. There was no, you basically had, as a buyer, you had no pull. I'm telling you, be aggressive, because right now I'm seeing buyers are getting aggressive offers, and people are negotiating whether it's low. I've never seen people negotiate 100,000, 50,000 low, and they're doing it because they're not getting hits.
What was the price of that house roughly? Like the price range of that house? 500. So it went from 5 to 4.
So we ended up taking 450. But their initial offer was 420,000. This house was listed originally at 520.
Oh.
Now that was actually under the comps. This house appraised at 520. These people got it for 450.
Wow.
So the supply and demand has changed. And every time I would talk to another realtor about the feedback on the house, she'd be, well, we have 5, 6, 7 favorites, and you're like 1 or 2 or 3. That was never the case the last 2 years. It was always, well, this is the greatest house ever, we want it, no matter what. And everybody would tell you that. And then you get 35 offers, and then the poor sellers, that's not poor sellers, but the sellers would have to try to weed out what's the strongest offer, and
they got to read through 35 contracts.
Yeah, and everybody's writing offers about how great this home is and blah blah blah. I mean, at this point, the buyers should be aggressive, because as long as they're going to make the market what it is. So now is your chance to really get in there. If you've been waiting, get in there. There's always refinancing.
Right.
Get the house you really want. If everybody could time it perfectly, they would. But no, life happens, and you can't time selling and buying.
No.
You can't.
No, you can't.
I mean, if you have a lot of money and you like to invest, but that's the single thing, is that I would say be aggressive, because right now sellers are wanting offers, they're not getting them. So as a buyer, be aggressive.
You can take advantage of that.
Absolutely.
And I heard someone say the other day, when you fall in love with the house, you find the house that you want. It's your dream house. They say you marry the home and you date the rate.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You're not crazy about the interest rate, but you worry about, okay, with the current interest rates that are out there right now, I need to get my payment to X. My payment needs to be below $2,000 with principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, or whatever, or it needs to be in between $1,500 and $1,700, wherever your budget is. So find that house that you like, find out where the rates are, find out what the payment will be, and say, okay, in order for me to afford this house on a monthly basis, you need to come down to this price. Can you do it? If the seller says no, you move on to the next one. If the seller says yes, you get yourself a deal.
I've seen I've seen 3 houses just on my listings listed are in the 500s that landed in the 4s. So that tells you right there that there's deals to start getting, and you're not married to a rate. I would always say, be aggressive, get those deals that are out there. You're never married to a rate. You're never married to even a house. There's a lot of different, nobody's truly stuck.
Sure. Yeah, there's options.
I mean, obviously be smart on what you're doing.
Be smart,
know what you're doing. But at the end of the day, would you rather own something and put equity into something and gain wealth, or would you rather just pay rent or wait it out?
So as a buyer, you can turn the higher interest rate environment to something that works to your advantage.
Absolutely.
Is that a fair thing to say?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Well, hey, Andy, this has been awesome. This has been very informative, and I'm sure that a lot of the people who have been listening to this will find a lot of value in what you're saying. If somebody out there is looking to buy a house, how can they get a hold of you?
You can go to the lanerealtygroupaz.com. So lanerealtygroupaz.com. There's a couple of Lane Realty groups in the country. But
okay.
You got to put that Arizona as AZ, or you can. Any Google search, any search will find Lane Realty Group. You'll find us as long as it's Arizona based. 480-313-3094 is the company and my personal line. So either one will work. We answer the phone all the time. We get emails all the time. We're here to help. We do buyers, we do sellers, we do a lot of investors. We help our investors find rentals. I mean, we love first-time home buyers. You get to teach these people how to buy a house. Groom them through the process. I love doing that. That's one of my favorite things because, people that have been burned or have done this for 30 years, 40 years, you get these first-time real excited buyers. You get their first home. They're having a baby or they get married. There's all these fun things, all these exciting things to do, and then the house. And it was not comfortable at the end of the day to have to give everything away for these poor people. When they were buying a house, they should be able to negotiate. They should be able to get things fixed. And I think that this correction is actually going to help a little bit.
Right.
For these kind of buyers that I always said that the biggest losers in this crazy spike in in our housing prices and everything was the first time buyer. And now it's starting to swing back to that buyer that wasn't able to get anything accepted, had to rent, couldn't afford anything, and that's going to the pendulum swinging a little bit back their way. And I say be aggressive. So you can find us anywhere, online, phone number, email, text, anything you want.
Awesome.
Well, or call Aaron.
Call me and I can send you over to Andy, of course. Well, thanks, Andy. I appreciate you coming on, and I learned a lot. This has been awesome.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, sure.